You really have the nerve to show up with that face, huh? A former classmate is being ridiculed. Seeing her remaining silent and about to cry, I felt a surge of anger. Cut it out, will you? I'd immediately stepped in to defend my former classmate. When she looked up to face me, my heart skipped a beat. What's the matter? A farmer from the countryside trying to act cool or something. Now it was my turn to be mocked for being a farmer. She hasn't grown up a bit since high school. Thinking that, I smiled and patted my former classmate on the shoulder. Do you know who she really is? Right after, the tables turned dramatically due to the actions of my former classmate. I am Matthew Smith, a single man running a farm in a regional city. Our family has a long history of farming dating back to my great-grandfather's generation. Thus, we're quite large-scale and have a fair number of employees. Matthew, it's time to go harvest. Got it. Having helped with the family farming business since I was young, I've always taken pride in being a farmer. After graduating high school, I chose not to go to college and instead helped with the family business. Farming is complex. Listen, Matthew, farming is a battle against many elements. If you let your guard down even a little, you won't get good vegetables. The more effort we put in, the more the vegetables will respond. I was repeatedly taught the essence of farming by my grandparents and parents. Subject to the whims of weather and climate, any negligence would prevent the crops from growing well. It's a tough job, but it's genuinely rewarding to produce delicious vegetables. I want to incorporate various technologies for my generation. Our field is yours to do as you please now. That's right. Do it your way. I've put effort into modern agriculture, venturing into rare and challenging to grow vegetables. Thanks to this, our family is well known in the area. Matthew, someone came looking for that new vegetable you've been growing. Thank you, Michael. The person who called out to me is Michael Jones. He's one of the key supporters of our farm along with his wife. His wife is currently pregnant and on maternity leave. However, she sometimes shows up to help out without overexerting herself, for which I'm truly grateful. Well, I'm going to check on the veggies. Yes, please do. He's knowledgeable about rare vegetables and supports my ideas, helping to grow them together. That's why I can trust him with the work confidently. Matthew, I'll head to the field with the interns first. Thanks, I appreciate it. The next person to speak to me was Jacob Miller. He just graduated from college and started working in our fields. He is multilingual and has been leading the foreign agricultural training program we recently introduced. His kind nature has made him popular among the interns. All right, time for me to get to work too. With the help of many, I've been making delicious vegetables. I've been spending each day taking care of my vegetables when... Matthew, you've got a letter. Thanks. The letter was to inform me about a high school reunion. It seems that they are organizing a reunion for my grade from our high school. The venue this time is in New York. Usually, it would be held in our hometown, but many classmates had moved to New York for college and ended up working there. So it looks like it's going to be held in New York this time. I wonder if I'll see her in New York. The person that comes to mind is someone special to me, a classmate named Emily Williams. Maybe I'll get to see her since she had gone to New York. With that thought, I decided to make arrangements to attend. Emily, I need your help again today. Emily was known to be beautiful back in high school. However, she always looked down because of a large scar on her face. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. You're always such a big help, Matthew. You're always busy helping out at home, aren't you? I was interested in her. Emily was smart, so I made up the excuse of wanting her to check my homework to talk to her, and eventually, we became friends. You really have a way of teaching, Emily. Thank you. You're kind, Matthew. You think so? I think you're the kind one. The reason I started to take an interest in Emily was because of the presence of other classmates like Sarah Brown and her group. Matthew's family is a bunch of farmers. That's probably why he smells like soil. He's probably covered in mud every day. Because of my family farm, I was always ridiculed by Sarah and her flashy, popular group. To them, I would retort, "So what if we're farmers? It's because of farmers that you get to eat vegetables. Have you done anything significant enough to mock others?" I took pride in our farm, so I always fought back. Sarah and her group would laugh it off, saying, "It's just the truth." I suppose they found my constant comebacks somewhat annoying. Eventually, we became like cats and dogs. Interestingly, it was only them who ridiculed me. Other classmates didn't mock me. "Sarah is annoying you again, huh?" They're annoying, always bragging or putting others down. In fact, they distanced themselves from Sarah's group. "Emily, you know, with that scar on your face, I'm surprised you can come to school." If it were me, I'd be too embarrassed to show my face. They also ridiculed Emily for her appearance. Emily responded differently from me towards them. She just silently endured it. Being a woman and having such a scar. "Emily, there's something I don't understand of the homework. Could you help me?" I just couldn't leave her alone, so I started talking to Emily and made sure I was there for her. In doing so, I was able to protect her from Sarah and her group, albeit slightly. "What are you going to do after high school, Matthew?" "I'm not going to college. I plan to focus on farming. I have various things I want to do, and while my grandparents are still healthy, I want to get their opinions. What about you, Emily?" "I'm planning to go to a university in New York." Since then, I haven't seen Emily, who went off to university in New York. However, I occasionally heard rumors about her. Emily is working hard, so I should too. Every time I hear about her, it inspires me to do my best. Emily's existence supports me even to this day. I would really like to see her. She must have become more mature and even more beautiful than before. Maybe she doesn't remember much about me. Still, I wanted to see Emily as she is now. Deciding to attend the reunion, I told my parents I'd be away from home for a while. "Is that so? We'll be looking forward to the souvenir. And maybe you'll find a potential wife while you're at it." "What are you talking about, Dad?" As I retorted to my dad's words, Emily was still crossing my mind. I never really had a girlfriend through high school, and I hadn't met anyone special since graduating. To me, Emily was still a significant figure, perhaps even idealized in my memory. That's why I wanted to see her again. Typical New York with so many tall buildings. Arriving in New York, I was immediately overwhelmed by the sheer number and height of the buildings, but that feeling was short-lived. It feels so fresh here. I'm glad I came. My excitement rose quickly in the city, which I hadn't visited for a long time. I spent the day dropping off my luggage at the hotel I had booked in advance and wandering around, buying unique city-only souvenirs. After thoroughly enjoying myself, I decided to rest early to prepare for the reunion the next day. So, this is the venue for the reunion. New York hotels are indeed stylish. The reunion was held in a hotel banquet hall. Stepping in with a bit of nervous excitement, I started to see familiar faces. "Hey, it's Matthew. Wow, it's really you. It's been so long. Long time no see, you guys." My friends quickly recognized me and greeted me warmly. In response, I smiled back at them. We slapped each other's shoulders as we used to. "Well, it's been such a long time, and still that awful scar." Then, from the back, we heard an unnecessarily loud voice. Turning our gaze, we saw a group dressed in flashy attire. Ah, that's Sarah and her crew, unchanged in the worst way. They've been bringing up something, but now it seems they'd found someone to bother. It appears Sarah was among them. Our friends looked on with annoyance. Feeling uneasy, I approached the group, and it seemed they were causing a commotion. Really, how persistent can you be? That was Sarah, laughing and pressing against someone. It was Emily. "Are you even listening? I'm talking to you. You hadn't changed at all. And to think you'd show up looking like that. Emily, just like in high school, was looking down, alone, holding back tears. Even at this age, they're still bullying like high schoolers. Feeling that surge of anger, I raced over to them. Cut it out, would you? As I did, I shielded Emily behind me. Wait, is that you, Matthew? Emily said, surprised, looking up at me. Seeing her like that, I couldn't help but feel a jolt of emotion. It's been a while, I managed to say, finding myself at a loss for words in front of her, who had become even more beautiful than she was back in high school. The scar was still there, yes, but it was hardly noticeable, maybe because of her makeup. Even though I had stepped in to protect her, I found myself frozen, overcome by nervousness. What's this? The country farmer thinks he's some kind of hero. That mocking tone from Sarah was what finally got me going. Looking at her, I retorted, I've always said, what's wrong with farming? You all eat vegetables, don't you? I shifted my focus from Emily and coldly retorted, I objected coldly. These people really haven't changed. Looking at Sarah with a mix of astonishment and disdain, I thought about how childish it was of her to still engage in such petty harassment. At that moment, something occurred to me. Does Sarah even know about Emily's current situation? Is she aware and still choosing to harass her this way? No, that can't be. If she knew, she wouldn't be acting like this. Thinking this, I couldn't help but smile at the thought of what's about to unfold because of Sarah's actions. What are you smiling about? Do you know who she really is? I said this while putting my arm around Emily's shoulder, facing Sarah. Sarah looked puzzled at first, but her expression quickly shifted back to one of disdain. What can she possibly be with that face? Let me guess, some low-level worker at some company, right? Even if she got the job out of pity because of her scar, it's nothing to brag about. She continued to look down on us. So you really don't know anything, huh? My smile widened. You see, she's a CEO. She's far more successful than you could ever hope to be. A CEO? No way. I can't believe it. Sarah scoffed at my words. Apparently, she doesn't listen to my words. Thank you, Matthew. Emily then stepped forward and pulled out a business card, offering it to Sarah. I apologize for the late introduction. I'm Emily Williams, the CEO of my company. The business card displayed her title as CEO and her name, Emily Williams. Do you ever talk back, Emily? Me having a scar is true after all, she said. Back in high school, Emily was always self-conscious about the scar on her face and tended to keep to herself. Sarah and her group often mocked her for that scar, and I was always concerned about it. I don't think it's something you should care so much about. I tried to reassure her, making an effort to engage her in conversation. That's how we started talking more, just the two of us. I can feel confident about myself because of this scar, Emily told me one day. At her words, I couldn't help but tilt my head in confusion. Is having a scar really that bad? She responded, her eyes widening in surprise at my question. I've always wondered something while farming. Hey, why can't this be shipped? It's because it has a scar, was the answer. Scarred vegetables can't be shipped out. If they aren't perfect and unblemished, the agricultural cooperative won't accept them. Similarly, vegetables that don't meet the standard criteria are also rejected. But these taste just as good. In reality, the flavor of pretty vegetables, scarred vegetables, and non-standard vegetables is equally delicious. In fact, some scarred vegetables taste even better. I understand what you're saying, Matthew. My grandmother used to say vegetables with scars often become tastier, as if making up for their flaws, she would explain, always cooking the unsellable vegetables for us at home. I shared this with Emily. Whether you have a scar or not doesn't change who you are. It's all about what's inside that counts. Having scars means you've experienced pain, and that can make you grow into a better person. I encouraged Emily. Hearing my words seemed to lift the weight off her shoulders, and from that day on, she no longer hung her head. Sometime later, I heard the story behind this scar from my mom. Emily shared with me quietly. It turned out she was attacked by a neighbor's dog when she was just a child. A large dog had escaped and went after Emily while she was out with her family. Her pregnant mother was there, and Emily, even as a child, had tried to protect her mother and the unborn sibling. My dad was a bit further away, but managed to chase the dog off quickly, so fortunately, it didn't get worse, she explained. So it's like a medal of honor then, I responded. Yes, it's my medal for protecting my mom and sibling. I'm not ashamed of it anymore, she said with the most beautiful smile I had ever seen. After that, Emily became even more dedicated to her studies. Matthew, I got accepted into a university in New York, Emily shared with me one day. That's amazing. I knew you could do it, Emily. She continued to maintain top grades in her class and entered the famous university. In college, she studied business administration and, after graduating, started her own company. Her business model involved buying unsellable fruits and vegetables directly from farmers and selling them directly to customers. Currently, she sells primarily in the metropolitan area, sourcing from nearby regions. Most of her customers are from the city, but the freshness, taste, and the lower prices due to the products being damaged or non-standard have also made her online sales popular. Thanks to that, I'm gradually gaining fans nationwide, Emily said, her demeanor much more confident than before. Seeing her like this made me feel a bit proud. I had known about Emily's company through our connection in agriculture and had been cheering for her from afar. I had been looking forward to seeing her after so long, but I couldn't stand by and watch Sarah mock her like in the old days. I'm sorry, Emily, for spilling the beans about your work. I just couldn't keep quiet, I apologized. It's okay. Thank you. Actually, your defense helped me find the courage to stand up for myself. After impulsively revealing Emily's profession, I felt a bit of regret. However, she no longer had the tearful look from before. She was looking forward, her eyes full of determination. Actually, I buy vegetables from here too, Sarah murmured in shock after looking at the business card Emily had given her. Her entourage leaned in to take a peek at the card and then exclaimed in surprise, recognizing the company name. Oh, that company. Well, it's well known, isn't it? It seemed her classmates were familiar with the company too, and they began to make a fuss over Emily. She smiled back at them, standing firm and looking straight ahead. Thank you for your patronage, she said. At those words, Sarah turned pale and was at a loss for words. Her followers, feeling awkward, started to drift away from her. I'll be taking my leave now. Unable to bear the stares from those around her, Sarah eventually left the venue. As Sarah left, our classmates started to applaud Emily, who gave a slightly embarrassed but lovely smile. You've become quite the celebrity, I noted as a crowd gathered around Emily, making it impossible for me to get close. I smiled bitterly and watched the scene from a distance. Emily is now talked to by everyone, unlike back then. Feeling a mix of happiness and a bit of loneliness, Emily broke away from the group and came over to me. Thanks for helping me out there, she said with shy gratitude, looking as beautiful as ever. Don't mention it. But should you be talking to me? Everyone seems to want to talk to you. It's fine. I want to talk to you, she insisted, making me fight back a grin of happiness. Because of you, I don't worry about my scar anymore, Emily said, gently touching her scar. But when Sarah started mocking me, I couldn't help but freeze up, remembering the past. Because you helped me, just like in high school, I was able to stand up to her. I was really happy. My help? I asked, surprised by her words. Emily smiled. Vegetables with scars taste better, right? I decided to compete based on what's inside, which motivated me to study hard, and thanks to that, I became a CEO. I was captivated by her smiling face. I never imagined my words would change Emily's mindset. "Thank you, Matthew," she said, making me feel unexpectedly pleased. "Oh, Matthew, actually, I have something work-related to discuss. Could we meet later?" So we agreed to meet after the reunion. I was planning to return to my hometown the next afternoon, so we met in the morning at a cafe she had chosen. "I want to make a contract with your farm," she revealed. She offered me a deal. "We've only been dealing with farms in the capital area so far, but we're planning to expand nationwide. So please let us handle your vegetables too." Emily bowed her head to me, expressing her gratitude. Well, I thought it wasn't necessary to go that far. I nodded with a smile. "I'm looking forward to working together." "Me too." "I'm looking forward to our partnership." I gladly accepted her request, and Emily and I became business partners. "I fulfilled a dream," she chuckled. "Huh." "I've always dreamed of handling your farm's vegetables," she mentioned. The idea to start her business was inspired by me. After tasting our vegetables, she was determined to include them in her business. "But your vegetables are so well known, Al. I thought it would be disrespectful to approach you with my small startup. That's why I worked hard to grow my company to a level you'd hear about." Her dedication impressed me, and to think she valued our vegetables that much. "I'm glad to hear you say that. It's beneficial for us too, not having to discard good vegetables, and it's great that more people get to enjoy them. Yes, I'd want everyone to taste the vegetables from your farm." After returning home, I quickly told Michael about signing a contract with Emily's company. "That's amazing. Her company was even featured on TV the other day," he responded, clearly pleased. This reassurance made me feel confident about the decision to partner with her. Matthew, there's something else I need to discuss, even though it might overlap with the contract topic." Michael then brought up a new subject. It turns out a local school had approached us about the possibility of hosting some experiential learning sessions. Jacob was particularly excited about this opportunity. "How do you feel about Jacob handling this, Michael?" I asked. "I think he's more than capable," he replied, offering a supportive smile that felt like a nudge in the right direction. "Let's leave the school matter to Jacob then. Michael, could you support him in this?" "Of course," he agreed. "Looks like we're going to be busy," I said to Michael, feeling genuinely excited about what lay ahead. After some time passed, Matthew, Emily, you came to visit again today. Emily frequently visited our farm, combining her visits with trips back home. It seems quite lively today. Actually, today we have kids from the local school here for a field trip." "That's wonderful," she said, turning her gaze towards the field. There, the neighborhood children were harvesting vegetables with bright, sparkling eyes. It was heartwarming watching them interact with Jacob and the interns with smiles. This farm is special. The vegetables here bring smiles to many people. I always feel like I want to stay here forever." Hearing those words, I couldn't help but look at Emily's face. As we've seen each other more and more, our relationship has grown closer, and now, perhaps it's the right time to express my feelings to her. "Emily, would you go out with me?" I asked her. This time she looked at me and said, "I have a scar on my face. To me, that doesn't matter at all. Even with a scar on your face, your heart is beautiful," I reassured her. Hearing my words, she nodded with a radiant smile, and so we began dating and eventually decided to get married. "What about your job in New York?" I inquired. "We're in the age of remote work now," she replied. She married into my family and continued her role as a CEO from our home. "Is work going okay?" I asked. "Yes, no problem at all. In fact, I did more here in this quiet environment than I did in New York," she assured me. My parents welcomed Emily warmly. "We're so happy to have a beauty like you join our family," they said. "Really? We were worried Matthew might never get married, but we're truly grateful that someone as beautiful as you has married him." No one dared to mention the scar on her face. It seemed that everyone appreciated her for who she was, not her appearance. With my face, the scar doesn't matter at all. Matthew fell in love with you for who you are. You must be an incredible person, my grandmother told her. She and Emily had become very close, often seen chatting together. Everyone here is just like you, wonderful people. Exactly. Everyone knows that even if they have scars, it's what's inside that counts, I said, and Emily smiled brightly in response. We were blessed by many at our wedding. We invited all our classmates except for one person, Sarah, of course. I heard a rumor that Sarah got divorced. Apparently, Sarah had married a wealthy man and bragged about it, but her husband's company had dealings with Emily's company. Through that connection, he found out about the situation, leading to a big fight and their divorce. It seems they had a child, but the husband took custody. Sarah used her child as a trophy but lacked affection for that child. Thus, even her child grew distant, leaving her to lead a lonely life now. I heard she's desperately trying to earn child support. Apparently, Sarah spends her days working various jobs, insisting she do anything but farming. That's unfortunate. I consider hiring her if she genuinely humbled herself, but that's unlikely with her pride. It also seems that her former friends tried to fit in elsewhere, but faced rejection. Well, she reaped what she sowed. She should have cultivated her inner self instead of mocking others' appearances. I muttered, choosing to focus on my wedding. Matthew, is there anything I can help with? I'd love your help, but what about your work? It's fine. I've just finished a task, and I could use physical activity as a break. Emily helps out with the farming in between her work. Thanks to her, we've significantly reduced waste in our produce. As a result, our income has been steadily increasing. Also, thanks to her, my unique vegetables can now reach customers nationwide. By the way, Michael's wife said she wanted to thank you. Thank me. She said her child loved the weaning food she made with the vegetables you grew. Emily beamed happily at my words. Michael's child was born healthy and is now happily keeping Michael and his wife busy. We should hang out with them again soon. Sure, we should. Jacob has gained confidence from leading the recent field trip and has become more proactive. He's currently abroad, sharing agricultural knowledge in the interns' home countries. We can't be outdone by them. Today, we're both out in the field, sweating under the sun. A year later, we were blessed with a lovely son. Now, the three of us spend our days in the field. I wonder if he'll want to farm like us one day. Who knows? He might even say he wants to be a CEO someday. We discussed our child's future with smiles on our faces, looking forward to what lies ahead. However, we're determined to teach him to value people's inner qualities over their appearances. Our farm is a place where people of all races come together. We want him to be exposed to such diversity and learn to see the worth in everyone. With that thought, I gently stroked Aaron's head.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, "I'm very sorry." Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, "Get his boss here immediately." It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. "What is that idiot doing?" "All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next." Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. "If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you." I immediately followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. "Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize." Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. "What kind of training are you giving your subordinates?" Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed, I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry." Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." "Mike, what have you done?" Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part." I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hope to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.